For those of you who are thinking about getting your first internship or your first job, you're probably wondering, what are the things that I need to do in order to make companies see that I have an attractive profile, that I will add value? These are the things that can be somewhat challenging, somewhat even overwhelming for folks wanting to get everything all in the same place. In order to get a better idea about that, I'm here today with Anne, who's the lead talent partner at Andela, and has a fair amount of experience, being on the other side of the table, interviewing candidates, checking out their profiles, and seeing what's going to be the best match for the companies that she's worked for. So, Anne, welcome. And if you can just give us a bit of background about who you are and what you do, and then we'll take it from there into some more practical tips.
Thank you very much, Bart. So, like you said, my name is Anne, and I work at Andela. So I have been working in recruitment for the past about 4 years, but actually more than 4 years now. So I have been working as a technical recruiter. So I do have a lot of experience with all the various aspects of recruiting for technical jobs in the technical industry. So, sorry.
No, that's good. No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you know what you're talking about. That being said, what are things that nowadays are important for companies? What are the things that they're looking for? What should candidates keep in mind when they're building their resumes? When they're building out a profile, let's say on GitHub or on LinkedIn? What are things that you often look for or that catch your attention?
All right. From what I've learned since I started working in this particular industry, it is a very dynamic industry. So it changes a lot. And what I'm learning, what companies are looking for now is not what they were looking for last year at the same time. It's not what they were looking for when I started. So things will change, and this might not be what is the case 6 months down the line or a year down the line. Things will have changed. But at this time, it's a particularly difficult time we're in. So companies are having to adapt to having less money, having less resources, not being sure of where the companies are heading towards. So it is a difficult time, but there are still a lot of positions open. So currently, there are positions across the board in all sectors, in all sections, for security, data science, machine learning. So there are opportunities open in pretty much every line of work in tech. But we're finding that a lot more companies are looking for people that they traditionally not look for. So they are looking for people who are a little more unique, people who are a little more different. And since it is more of a global operation now, companies will approach you from absolutely anywhere. So we cannot be closed-minded to where, I don't know, if you live in California, you can only work for a company in California. Sometimes you will live in California and work for a company in, I don't know, South Africa or somewhere. So it is a very dynamic time, and you need to be able to be adaptable and understanding that companies will approach you from absolutely anywhere. And it is a time where online recruitment is a major, major thing. So it is very important to have an online presence that is professional. And you can separate your TikTok and Facebook and everything and keep your LinkedIn professional. And it is also very important to, especially very early on in your career, decide what path you're going to take. Because I've met people who have 10, 15 years of experience, but they're kind of generalists. They've done everything, but they are master of nothing. So very early on, it's very, very important to be able to decide what path you're going to take and then figure out ways to break into that particular path if you can. I know it's very easy, especially for your first job, to just take whatever you can get, but it is a little, sometimes if you can afford to be picky, I would advise people to be picky about the jobs they're taking, because when you're thinking about your career, you want to think where you will be 5 years down the line. So if you take, I don't know, a Java interview today and you pass it, then you're a Java engineer for the next 6 months, and then you're a DevOps engineer for 6 months, and then you're an Android engineer for a year. You'll never really be a master of any of them, and then you will find that it gets harder and harder as you progress to advance to like a senior position, a lead position, and things like that. It's a mistake that I found that is very, very common. And I don't think people understand how important it is to earlier on decide where you want to take your career.
This is a great point. And I often see sometimes with different folks, like trying to do everything all at once. And it's not that we're questioning your intelligence or your abilities. There are just only so many things you can do at the same time. Yeah. And I like your point there. And also that it's, because I see it sometimes, and I've had various conversations that people will put on their profiles or LinkedIn that I do everything. And like I said, that's generally quite difficult. So having a little bit of specialization somewhere and always having examples of showing people what you can do, that's one thing I want to ask you. For young folks that are in university, and like you said, depending on the country, maybe in your country, your university means something. In other countries, they may have absolutely no idea. Yeah. And so then other factors are going to be important. What are some of those other factors?
A lot of the things that really make you stand out, especially when you have less experience, is someone who, in Kenya, we like to call it sending yourself, someone who does things without being asked. So you show that you have initiative, not just someone looking for employment, make a living and nothing after that. So you could ask to volunteer. You could ask for opportunities to learn things. You could take this. There are some free courses. For example, I see them being advertised, the Azure certifications, things like that. So when you start taking certifications like those, they make you stand out, and they also make you be able to identify what path is right for you, more enjoyable, so that you have a better understanding of what the industry is like, what people actually do for jobs, because you're in university, you've studied, but you don't really understand what people actually do at work, and you don't really understand how the industry runs. So it's very, very important to put yourself in situations where you can kind of learn how jobs work, how the market operates, and things like that. So it gives you a better understanding of where you want to go. And it also gives you a foundation to where you can come in and you have maybe 6 months of experience as an intern, but you also have a lot of other things that you've done that show where you're interested in going, and they show what path you want to take, so that because employers are looking to help you build your career as well. So it helps the employer to also understand where you want to go, so that they can kind of work with you towards that goal.
Yep, and that's great. And like you said, there is the technical side, but then a really important thing as well. The technologies are there, that's true, but how does that company use those technologies? How does that company work? What does the job actually look like? Those are things that I understand it's difficult until you do it, but it's something that's very important to keep in mind, is that you may have a certain idea of what you're going to be doing, but ask about that in the interview process. Say, what's a typical day like? Could I speak to someone who's doing a similar job, or maybe did it, 6 months to a year ago? So you have a better idea how that's going to be. And I always encourage folks too, anytime you're doing an interview, always have questions to ask the person who's interviewing you. What do you like about your job? What are things that attracted you to this company? What are the things that that you find exciting about here that you can't find in other places? Help them to give you more information about what the experience is going to be like, and also showing, like you said, taking the initiative. I always say, do your homework. If you haven't looked at their website, at their social media, maybe some talks that employees have given, things like that. Those little things add up a lot and shows that you are very motivated. It's not just that you're applying to 500 places and this particular place gave you an interview. That's great. Now, we're almost out of time. Any final messages that you want to leave with folks that they should bear in mind in this process?
I think I'm just going to reiterate your point. I find that when I'm interviewing people, a lot of them, I'd say like 80% of the people I interview are usually just sitting there waiting to be asked questions. And at the end of the interview, I'll always ask, do you have any questions for me? So there are some questions that make it sound like you are interested, like you are actually interested in not just getting a new job so you can feed yourself and feed your family or something, that you're actually interested in what the company does and things like that. So basic questions that really, really make you stand out is ask something about what the team is like, for example. Ask them if they're comfortable revealing what products you'd be working on, what technologies you'd be working with. Ask them things like, interviewers will often ask you, for example, where do you see yourself 2 years down the line? Ask them where they see the company in 2 years down the line. Then that shows that you're interested not just in getting a job and getting a salary. You're also interested in your future in the company 2, 3, 5 years down the line. So it really, really shows that there's some depth to you, and it's very, very good when you can engage the interview in some question. Challenge them. Let them, if they do not have an answer, let them find out for you, because they need to have all these answers. They're looking for a position for you. They need to tell you 2 years down the line what will happen. Just ask all the questions. You can ask some of them about what stage of funding. You can ask all of that. It's all allowed. No one will penalize you or eliminate you for asking questions. So I would say the most important thing is to be curious, both during the interview and even like in between jobs, or if you're out of work or you're in a new job, always be curious and always be very, very engaging.
Very good. Good. Well, I think we agree. And absolute pleasure as always, and look forward to conversing with you more in the future. If folks want to connect with you, the best way to do so is probably LinkedIn, I assume?
Yes, they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can share my LinkedIn profile with them.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you.